See, we upgrade here. Last time I was holding a mic, this time it's on a stand. So, progress. Hat up or hat down. Hi, my name's Jacob, welcome to the HOTDPod. Episode 1. House of the Dragon is finally here and fire. That's all I can say. It's not all I have to say, but let's start there. You ever just cry because of how beautiful something is? It's Perfektenschlag. Adaptation done right. Seriously, this is everything I hoped it would be and then some. So let's do a little bit of a dive into what we saw. Forgive me if my thoughts are a little bit all over the place. That being said, let's go. Opening on that first sequence with an older Rhaenyra Targaryen narrating the events of the Great Council of 101, which shows Viserys Targaryen as the successor to the old king Heirs. And this all looks very, very cool. We get that great moment in film where they say the name of the movie or the show in the movie or the show. Oh my god. Now this great council happened at Harrenhal because of all the lords and knights and all of that in attendance. We needed a big venue, and Harrenhal is the biggest place you can host something. And we see a pretty book accurate version of Harrenhal here. I mean, it's huge and burnt out because Dragonfire. So a more book accurate version of Harrenhal, which we didn't see in Game of Thrones. We also get a great bit of foreshadowing here. Rhaenyra is saying that Jaehaerys knew that the only thing that could tear the House of the Dragon apart was itself, which with the Targaryen civil war on the horizon is entirely accurate. They will kill each other. Just in case you thought it's not that sort of a party, it is. Get a nice little tribute to Daenerys Targaryen there as well, which also reminds you that this is a prequel 170 years before Daenerys existed. I noticed we didn't get an opening sequence though, and now episode 2 might have one, because I've seen TV shows do this in which the first episode won't have an intro sequence, it'll just get right into it, and then the next episode and episodes following that have the intro sequence. So hopefully you get one in episode 2, but if we don't, you don't always need an intro sequence. I mean, I guess the one with Game of Thrones was pretty cool, but I don't really mind. The flow of this was just perfect. We did, however, get the track from Game of Thrones at the end of the episode when the credits were showing. Now let's start a dragon count, shall we? In which we count how many of the book dragons we see throughout the show. And right off the bat, we see the first of many Targaryen dragons, Syrax, who is the mount of Rhaenyra Targaryen. It's just flying over King's Landing, and I like how King's Landing looks at this time because it's supposed to be the height of Targaryen power. They're supposed to be, really prosperous, and bread's supposed to be cheap. We see the humongous dragon pit in which the dragons are kept and stabled, which of course by the time of Game of Thrones has gone to shit due to events which we will see later on. We're introduced to Alicent Hightower and establish her relationship with Rhaenyra Targaryen. They're like BFFs or whatever, getting up to all sorts of ladylike hijinks at court, no doubt. This is interesting too because Rhaenyra is actually styled the Realm's Delight on account of how likable she is and how princess-like she is. So this sort of angle making her a little bit of a rebellious type like an Arya Stark. It's very cool. But them two's relationship as children just raises the stakes for what we know will be an entirely different relationship much later. King Viserys Targaryen. Let me just say Paddy Considine plays this role to perfection. Rent must have been due or something because this performance is just so believable as this character, immediately likable. We also see him choose a son over his wife. I wonder why. But his poor wife, man, Emma. Right? She talks about how she's grieved, 5 children in 10 years? A series of stillbirths and miscarriages. So you can see how much Viserys and Emma have tried for this male heir. You can see as a queen how desperate she is to give her king an heir, and as a mother, how broken and tired she is from repeatedly grieving lost children. But she does not last long at all, of course. Which gives us the first of many Dracarys, executed to perfection. Next, we see the small council of this time, which is the king's closest advisors. Just discussing council business. Corlys Velaryon mentions the crab feeder being a problem in the Stepstones, which are these rocky islands here. Setting up, of course, the campaign and the battle of the Stepstones, which I'm sure we've seen clips of from the trailer, and we'll see much later in the show, and Daemon Targaryen's involvement there. Which leads me to Matt Smith, Daemon Targaryen. Running things, of course, and proving why he's unfit to rule. But we love it. Daemon, I can feel, is probably already a favorite. Such a grey character this one is. He seems like a bit of a cruel dude as we see him in his gold cloaks delivering swift justice throughout the streets. But I mean, they're rapists and murderers, so is he really that bad? Just his blatant disregard for his wife, who is left back in the Vale, while he frolics around with his paramour Mysaria. Mysaria will be important later on. But Daemon isn't all that bad. I mean, he quite visibly cares for Rhaenyra. I particularly like the High Valyrian they use when speaking to each other, which just does a lot for this Targaryen world building. Small details are like how Rhaenyra's High Valyrian differs in pronunciation from Daenerys' Valyrian, because at this time, of course, the Targaryens are speaking the original High Valyrian from Old Valyria. By the time of Daenerys' time, she's probably speaking like a Tyroshi Valyrian dialect. Now, Daemon and Rhaenyra's chemistry is just great, obviously laying the groundwork for their relationship later on. Daemon's beef with Otto Hightower on sight, bro. Daemon, being the pompous douchebag that he is, challenges Otto's son during the tourney and unhorses him in quite the theatrical manner, and then later asking for and receiving Otto's daughter Alicent's favor, like just in front of him there. You got that dragon in him. Speaking of dragon, we see Daemon's mount, Caraxes the Bloodworm. I like how book accurate these dragons are looking so far, like how their colors are described. It's the way it is in the show. So Criston Cole is here in all his mysterious glory as he hands Daemon a mild ass kicking. Of course, we see the early signs of Rhaenyra's interest in him. He is also one of those characters who will be of importance later. Daemon, being douchebag, mocks Viserys over his dead heir, because in Daemon's head, we up, son. Viserys banishes Daemon from court and sends him back to the Vale, and his wife, who he hates so much. Date people you like, guys. Some small details now and a bit of foreshadowing. Viserys gets cut by the Iron Throne twice. The second time we see it happen. Being cut by the Iron Throne is seen as sort of an omen. The superstition goes if the Iron Throne cuts a ruler, that ruler has been spurned, sort of deemed unfit for the throne. And Viserys gets cut. Many a ruler has been cut on the throne, notably the ones who turned out to be unfit kings. Maegor the Cruel was cut on the throne and then later found dead on the throne. Many generations later, the Mad King Aerys, Daenerys' daddy, was mockingly styled the Scab King from the amount of scabbing he would have from all the cuts he got on the throne. We even saw Joffrey Baratheon get cut by the Iron Throne, and look how that ends. You get cut, you get fucked. Now, whether throne cutting you actually means anything, or whether it's a direct cause of, well, sitting on a chair made entirely of pointy sword blades, we may never know. Rhaenys, the queen who never was, is brilliant. Immediately a favorite as well. I'm excited to see her and Rhaenyra's relationship develop. And I would have killed to see her and Cersei in discussion about women ruling and playing the game. Which leads us to Otto Hightower playing the Game of Thrones like a pro, basically planting the seeds for what would be Viserys and Alicent's romance. We see Valyrian Steel, Blackfire, the sword of Aegon the Dragon, Dark Sister, the sword of Aegon's sister wife Visenya. You also see the cat's paw dagger from Game of Thrones, the one Littlefinger uses to basically start the War of the Five Kings, and the one Arya uses to stick it to the Night King. We see Viserys name Rhaenyra his heir and makes them man swear fealty to her. Some people don't entirely agree with this because of course she's a woman. Why? Not only this, but Viserys also shares some information with Rhaenyra. We also see the skull of Balerion the Black Dread, the only living thing from Old Valyria. At least he used to be anyway. Fun fact, Viserys was actually the last Targaryen to ride Balerion. Balerion goes on to die of old age shortly after Viserys claims him. And of course, dreams. This is well done. In the books, dreams and prophecy are a big part of Targaryen lore. Many Targaryens have had some sort of prophetic dream that we hear about at some point in the story. Most notably perhaps is Dennis Targaryen, known as Dennis the Dreamer, who is perhaps the single reason why Targaryens even exist to this day. See, many years ago, when Valyria of old still stood as the pinnacle of civilization, one Dennis Targaryen dreamed that the end was close. See, Dennis dreamed of the total destruction of Valyria and warns her father. Her father heeds her warning and sells their lands and stuff in Valyria and relocates with his family and their 5 dragons to an island outpost known as Dragonstone, now the ancient seat of House Targaryen. 12 years after they relocate, an event known as the Doom befalls Valyria, destroying everything and everyone, dragons included. This is, I think, the first of many Targaryens to go on and have prophetic dreams. Some that have significance to our story, others not so much. The Tales of Dunk and Egg by George Martin also shows more of this Targaryen prophetic dreaming stuff. So anyway, Viserys dreams of placing a son on the throne, a dream that becomes a priority to him, an obsession almost, as evident by him choosing his son over his wife Emma. Now, why is this so important to Viserys? Could it be that he just finally wants an heir so that Otto and them man get off his back? And then later we find out about Aegon the First's dream. Aegon, who conquered Westeros, didn't do it to simply conquer. Turns out he had a prophetic dream foretelling the coming of the Long Night, the White Walkers, a terrible cold evil, and a winter that never ends. Sounds familiar. Aegon literally calls this dream a song of ice and fire, which is the name of the entire book series. So we've heard the name drop of both the show and the book series. So this secret prophetic dream of Aegon's is passed down from Targaryen king to Targaryen king over the generations. Viserys believes the prophecy. He believes that Targaryen king must rule to stand against the dark. And I actually like this because it's information that comes directly from George Martin. It's kind of alluded to in the books that Targaryen kings or certain Targaryens know a secret. Rhaegar Targaryen, Jon Snow's father, he seems to know the secret too, and his actions with Lyanna Stark seem to be like a result of that. It's said that as a kid, Rhaegar was more into books and art and music and all of that stuff until one day he read something in a book somewhere which changed this. He just flipped and decided that he needed to be a warrior. What he read, I assume, is the prophecy of the prince who was promised, or Azor Ahai, who is the person prophesied to unite the realms of men and stand against the dark forces when the long night comes. So I think Rhaegar believed that this person would be either him or his son. Daenerys later also believes she's this promised prince. Melisandre believes it to be Stannis Baratheon, and then later Jon Snow. So we're getting some real full circle moments here, guys. This is perhaps also probably one of the only criticisms I have so far. But to be fair, it's more of a Game of Thrones problem than it is a house problem. So the prophecy stated that a Targaryen was going to be the savior and sit the throne when the long night came. So why the heck did Arya become the savior and Bran that king? The ending of Game of Thrones makes even less sense now, and therefore the prophecy in the prequel also as a result makes less sense. But I'm a book reader after all, so I'm isolating this issue to a Game of Thrones series problem. I'm convinced the events of the books are going to play out differently and thus make better sense of this prophecy. But look at that! House of the Dragon's going book canon with it. Ultimately though, I'm just excited to be back in this universe. I mean, just hearing some of these names. Harrenhal, the Vale, seeing the different houses' standards painted on shields, Boltons, Starks, Milk of the Puppy. It just takes you back. Scratches that itch, you know? It looks great, it sounds great. Ramin Djawadi is a genius. And the writing too. You see, Fire and Blood is a book that isn't dialogue heavy. It's a maester giving a historic telling of these events without actually knowing the specifics of conversations that people had. So hearing this dialogue between characters and how well it's done, example with the High Valyrian between the Targaryens, it's just exactly what you want to hear and see in an adaptation. We have brilliant characters here, characters that are morally grey, which I think is something that will keep on being emphasized as the show goes on. So do not like somebody a little bit too hard, because they will go on and do something that will make you hate them. I was trying so hard not to tweet about this while I was watching it and after, because I wanted my thoughts to be fresh on here. I was kind of reserving my thoughts for this video. So rating this, I'm gonna give this a solid 9 out of 10, and it's not a 10 only because that implies that it's perfect. And I have the unwavering belief that it can only get better from here. So how the hell do you improve on perfection? We shall find out. So yeah, I'll be back here for episode 2. And yeah, Dracarys, how?